Light and peace, peace and light. Welcome to the OahspeCollegeUniversity, solution to yesterday's ancient knowledge. Learning video for today is Noah's Ark. It's the same thing with Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark is the same thing with Noah's Ark. Now, for years I've been watching a lot of videos, watching debates, and 99% of the society all over the world, so 99% of the people actually believed that there was a man, Noah, and he had a ark. He had an ark, and he actually took animals and the surviving humans, not more than 3, into the ark when, according to the scriptures, the extra Bible, the Christian Bible, King James Bible, they believed, in fact, the Ethiopian Bible too, actually did believe that Noah was a man, and he put these 3 humans, and supposedly these 3 humans were supposed to repopulate the earth. Now, interesting enough, 2 things is going to happen in today's video. I am going to show without a shadow of a doubt that the word N-O-E was actually published in the original Christian Bible, the King James Bible, and any other Bible that was published before the year 1500 that existed. So which means back in ancient time, this word N-O-E actually existed in the Bible. Okay, and I'm going to show that with us some verses that from the website, which you can always go on your own and go check later time. But what was Noah's Ark according to the OahspeC? OahspeC decodes that ark is Ethereal light. Now, the flood, which people properly believe that, the Creator came, of course, God came and destroyed the world, and Noah took 3 people and some bunch of animals, not even up to 10, into ark, so that they could repopulate. OahspeC gives a different version, which makes perfect sense. So 24,000 years ago, before the Carsman era, there was the great serpent in the Ark of Noah in the Ethereal heaven. So I'm going to go to the book of Amp, chapter 1, verse 1 to 2. Now, verse 1, the book of Amp, chapter 1, verse 1 to 2. In the time of the world, 24,000 years before Carsman era, the great serpent being the Ark of Noah. Note that, just remember that Noah, and which I will show, the Christian community or the Christian society or anyone that has a scripture, that follows scripture, that has Noah, believe Noah is the same thing with Noah, which is not true. Anyway, in the interior heaven and the sum of Oid and Gia 87, the earth and our heavens were in great darkness. But the Spirit of Jehovah moved upon his high-raised God, Amp, in the Ethereal, to concentrate new dominions of the earth and heavens. Amp said, I am, son of Jehovah, God in the Ark of Noah. You see that? So Amp ruled in the Ark circle, and he was responsible to come deliver us during time of darkness, but he couldn't raise any harvest. But I'm going to sum it up. If you're interested, you can read the book of Job, chapter 1, verse 2. You can read the book of Job, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6. In fact, you can read the entire book of Job, the entire book. It clearly tells you what had transpired. So, like popular belief that the flood came. No, it was just a little continent. It was a continent called Wagga, which people call today Pan. that was crushed. Verse 2, I am son of Jehovah, God in the ark of Noe, in some of way, in Ethiopia, came to Ada, heaven of the red star. Red star is known as our word. In Jehovah's name, in his wisdom, power and love manifested in my own relationship to become companion to God, goddesses, and Orion chiefs on the throne of I heaven proclaim. Now, in the cycle that this had transpired was the 17th arc circle, which reigned for 3,600 years. And the timeline on this was 25,000 years ago in the ark of Nohi. And Amp was in charge of this arc circle, the 17th arc circle. Now, if you're to put the BCE and CE timeline, that would be around 23,000 BCE all the way down to 19,000 BCE. But if you're to use the year that OahspeCollegeUniversity used, which is the Cosman cycle, starting from 1848, if you go backward, it's 25,000 years ago. Now, what transpired? And now I'm going to just give you a rundown of what happened. You could go to the book of Ab, read chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. In the book of Ab, chapter 3, verse 15, verse 18, and verse 32. So I made fast, and my messenger sped to the concentrating forces of heaven, informing the Ethereal groups on Jehovah's ship of his commandment. And now Amp came to his ship, filled with his long laboring oars. And I greeted him and said to him, by the power and wisdom of Jehovah, the continent of Wagga, you see that? The continent of Wagga is to be cut loose and submerged and our heavens carried away. There you have it. That was the main purpose of the flood. It was not the entire world, but just a continent that was crushed from the other world. Return to the earth from all the divisions of earth and heaven. Bring all the spirits of darkness to Wagga, so that I may carry them away. Then Neb and his hosts view the imposing sin and return back to earth. So they had to do a summary analysis and come up with strategy to how they're going to submerge this continent. Okay, now verse 18, I'm going to fast forward because you can clearly go to the book of chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, 5, 6, and just go read everything. But I just extracted what is needed to present in this video to show clearly that the flood of Noah was not actually a flood that went on all the world, was just a continent, a small continent that existed 25,000 years ago. Verse 18, and I divided the line into sections, each with 250 ships, and there were 1,000 sections, and every ship was concentrated 10,000 fold. See, look at this, listen to this, which was the force required to break the crust of the earth and sink a continent. So these ethereal angels that came down to help Amp during this time, they had experienced something similar like this before. So Amp called upon the people who knew about certain events like this or knew what to do. And most of these ethereal angels were mathematicians, they were scientists, so he didn't help. So verse 18, I'm just going to read this again. And I divided the line into sections, each with 250 ships. And there were 1,000 sections, and every ship was contracted 10,000 foot, which was the force required to break the crust of the earth and sink a continent. Verse 32, and the star that was Thetis, the Ethereal ship, was stationed near the earth, so that she could better oversee the deliverance of the spirit that were to be freed by the submerge of the land of Wagga. And of these spirits, there were more than, 24,400,000,000, of whom that 3 billion were fetus, familiars, and spirits in chaos. This is one of the reasons why this continent needed to be submerged, or should I say crushed and destroyed out of our world, because the Ethereal Amp could not raise one spirit in heaven to Ethiopia. So they decided, since they knew that the problem was coming from the continent Wagga, they decided to cut it loose. This was your flood. Okay? Now, if I'm going to go to the book of Acts, chapter 4, verse 4 to 6. The book of Acts, chapter 4, verse 4 to 6. Now, in chapter 3, verse 15 and 18, 32, a lot of people will be saying, especially the Hebrew Israelite, oh, the Creator is mean. Where's the provision? Oh, he just let all these people die? No, the Creator already provided for them, in which I'm going to show now. Now, in the book of Acts, chapter 4, verse 4 to 6, and when you have spread the net, you shall send a sufficient number of Etyrians of great power to the large kingdom in Ada. You see that? To the first kingdom. And you shall also send a sufficient number of Etyrians down to the earth to Wagga, so that each and every mortal, whether man, woman, or child, shall have 5 to attend to them. And those who go to mortals shall take sufficient blankets with them. And for the time of destruction, when the mortal go down to death, your servants shall receive the liberated spirit on the blanket and carry them to the atmospheric column of ascent. And here your host shall receive them, provide for them. Let me say that again. You see that? And here your host shall receive them, provide for them, food and clothes as required for Asians newborn spirits. Verse 5. But it shall happen that many who perish in waters will be mothers with children in the womb, which live by fetal, as for proper in my sight, for I have created them so. Verse 6. Therefore, give special what? Special care to all such fetals. So they're talking about for people who died during pregnancy, because during this time in the continent of Wagga, when they decided to crush Wagga, you're going to have women who were pregnant who died. So verse 6 is saying, therefore give special care to all such fetals, for they are without sin. You see that? And when the mother is dead corporally, and the fetal also, bring away their spirits, put together, and provide a volunteer angel for fetal power, and deliver the infant spirit to her to be nurtured until the proper time of weaning. And in the same place provide a home for the mother of the child, so that she may inherit its love and mirth. You see that? This is how the Creator and angels of the Creator do. They provide for humans that die, compared to other religion gods who do not do this. They forsake them. Now, another thing, an interesting concept will come up, an interesting question will come up from the Mayete people, from the Kemetic brothers and sisters, from Christian brothers and sisters, from the Hindu, from Buddha people, from all sorts of religion, from Mormonism, any people that have a spiritual book that had this Noah's story, they will raise this question saying, but who did this? Why was this story not told? The gods of Genesis were involved. These are the guys who took control of our world at one particular time and decided that they were going to give a different story. So, and during this time is when they came up with the creation story, they added this Noah story. And the guys that was involved was Anu-Asaj, Osiris, Tannin, Sodga, Baal, and Astaroth. And they had other gods. But the primary gods and the main god was Osiris, Tannin, Sodga, Baal, Astaroth, and Anu-Asaj. These were the primary gods that was involved. There are secondary gods, Anubai, Phobi, Hislong, Ilum, Orion, Habi, and Valish, who were involved to distribute the story of Noah all over the world. But the main one was Anu-Asaj, followed by Osiris, Tannin, Sodga, Baal, and Astaroth. Baal and Astaroth, everybody knows that name. Osiris, everybody knows it. If you've read a scripture, any type of scripture over time, you must have heard, or even if you go to Google, you heard Osiris, Baal, and Astaroth. These were the people that gave the Noah story and came up with or they gave the creation story and also gave the Noah story. Noah's Ark and this so-called thing did not exist. It was a fable, a story that was given by these fallen angels. The fallen angels were Anuasat, Osiris, Ten, Sodgar, Bel, Astaroth, Anubai, Phobi, Islon, Elum, Orion, Ibi, and Valish. Here you have it. The Noah's Ark decoded using the OahspeCollegeUniversity. It was actually a timeline 25,000 years ago when the Etymology came down to rule our world and found out that they couldn't raise any spirit to harvest in heaven, and they decided to crush the continent of Pan. Now, the question again also will come, well, we don't have this word in the Christian Bible. We don't have it in our scripture. Yes, you do. Now, if you go to King James BibleOnline.org, which I'm showing here on my presentation, verse 38 in yellow clearly says what? N-O-E, entered into ark. You see that? Right there in Matthew chapter 24 verse 38. So if you're to go to this website, King James BibleOnline.org, clearly shows you label N-O-E, not Noah. Okay? These are scriptures that was published before the year 1600. And he has it. Another one is BibleGateway.com, and if you to choose the version or the translation of Wiley Bible, which is W-Y-C-L-I-F-F-E Bible, verse 37 clearly tells you what? But as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be to the coming of man. You see that? It didn't say the days of Noah. Later on, after the year 1600, they started putting Noah into it. Okay? Now, here's another one, just to prove the concept, just to prove, is the Darby translation, D-A-R-B-Y, Matthew chapter 24, verse 37. But as the days of Noah, you see that? And finally, again, there you have it. OahspeCollegeUniversity decodes that the Noah's Ark was actually an Ark of Noah, which is the Ethereal light, in which I showed clearly in the very first book of which I showed in the book of Ab chapter 1 verse 1 to 2, which says, in a time of the world 24,000 years before the Cosmic era, the great serpent in the ark of Noah in the Ethereal heaven. You see that? And then verse 2 also says, Am, son of Jehovah, God in the ark of Noah. You see that? So the timeline was 25,000 years ago when they decided to crush the continent of Pan. This was not a flood that happened to the entire world. It was just a piece of continent that they decided to crush. Here you have it, OahspeCollegeUniversity decoding that Noah's Ark is the same thing with Noah's Ark. The difference is that the Ark of Light, this happened 25,000 years ago. And Noah's Ark, there's no timeline on it. If you're to ask anyone who reads the scripture, most of them will tell you 8,000 years ago. They will tell you 6,000 years ago. And, you know, they don't have a proper timeline. OahspeCollegeUniversity gives the timeline when this event happened. And the guys of the Genesis who gave that wrong information were Anubai, Osiris, Ten, Sodgar, Baal, Astaroth, and Anuasat. Yeah, you have it, brothers and sisters. Light and peace now. Bye-bye now. Subscribe to my YouTube video.